what miracles did he perform according to what people asked?
In the Bible.
People asked for miracles.
Yeah.
What miracle did he perform in their demands?
Like in the Bible.
In the Bible.
In the Bible, he said that he turned water into.
No. People demanded miracles, and he answered them. What miracles did he perform based on their demands? He said, no sign shall be given to you except. So he didn't give anything. He gave no miracles. So now we have a bigger problem in the Christian tradition, except one, which is the sign of Jonah, right? So he did not perform any miracles on demand, as people are asking. So coming back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Quran is the eternal, everlasting, most important miracle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why do I say that? Because the Quran itself challenges people. If you don't believe that Prophet Muhammad, his slave, is the one that God gave the Quran to, sent the Quran down to, what people have to do is produce a single chapter like the Quran. If they are not able to do that themselves, like you don't know Arabic for example, you can seek your helpers and your witnesses to do that job besides God. If you cannot do that, and the Quran says you will not be able to do that, then fear the fire of hell, whose fuel is man and stones. So the Quran has been challenging people to bring a surah, a chapter like unto the Quran.
Can I ask something? What is the purpose? What is the meaning with the Quran? Where are we going? Why is the
What's
Quran?
the purpose of Islam?
Yeah, what is it?
Instructions.
The Quran
After
is
that, where are we going?
The Quran is the final guidance from God, telling you why you're here,
So why are you?
why you
Why
came
are we
from.
here?
Why are we here?
Look.
And where can
Why
we
are we
from?
here?
One second.
Why are we here?
Remember, the question is asked, the background we shouldn't forget. What makes the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a prophet? If you now somehow turn this question into what is the prime message of the Quran, I'm willing to entertain that, but let's focus on the original question. What makes the Prophet Muhammad a prophet of God?
Can you just define for me, like I told you, if I am going to believe something, I need it to be logical, coherent.
Oh, thank you for reminding that. Yes.
I want
come back
it to
to this
be.
point.
I want it to be. You have to
Yes.
be verified with truth.
Yeah,
tested
sure.
by truth and all these things.
Logical coherence.
Yeah, logical coherence is for me important. I can't just believe in anything.
Very good.
It's like I need.
So this is just a translation?
I need.
Agree.
I need evidence.
Yeah. So logical coherence. Let's start with some logical coherence of the Quran. The Quran talks about God. Say he is God, the one. God, the eternally besought of all. He begets not, nor was begotten, and there is none comparable to him. Let me establish to you the logical and the rational coherence of this small chapter called Surah Al-Ikhlas, chapter 112 of the Quran.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
the Quran says God is one.
yeah, he's
And
one.
wait.
He's
One-
singularity, right? Singularity.
Sorry, if you allow me to establish
No,
the
it's
Quranic,
just a conversation.
the coherence of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
He is one and only. That's the word ahad is one of its own.
Yeah,
one and only.
Yes.
Unique.
Okay.
Eternally besought of all. Someone who is totally independent and everyone and everything depends on him. He is absolute independent.
So he.
Being one,
Yeah.
being absolute and independent means he is not dependent on his life for anyone. Like he doesn't have a father or a lineage or forefathers or parents.
He's internal.
And being one and unique and absolute, neither does he have any need for begetting or producing, siring, creating, generating an offspring from him. So he has no sons and daughters or children.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry. If you allow me to elaborate. If you are one and only, if you are unique and absolute, you have to be independent. You cannot be a father of.
What do you mean by absolute? He can't be absolute. He lacks certain abilities.
I'll tell you why he's absolute.
He lacks the.
One moment.
For example, he can't be loving.
If you allow me.
He can't be love in itself.
If you allow me, I will establish that. Remind me about love, right?
There's a lot.
Remind me about love, right? So, to finish this coherence of this surah, if God is one and unique and absolute, you say why absolute? I'll tell you why he's absolute.
Yep.
If you are the only one and you're eternal with no beginning, did anyone bring you into existence? No. So are you in any way, shape or form dependent on your life, on your existence, on someone else or something else? The answer is no. That means you inherently possess the attributes of self-existence. And because you self-exist,
Yeah, but
because you self-exist, I just want to make sure everyone understands that.
Yeah.
Because God exists by his own self, without any being dependent on anyone, his life is not dependent on anyone. If he exists with attributes. Because if he exists without any attributes, then someone else have to give him attributes. Then he will be dependent. That means the attributes that God possesses are his own inherently. No one has given them. Bear with me. If God has attributes, would his attributes be limited? For example, God has attributes of knowledge. Would the attribute of knowledge be limited by any way, shape or form? We would say no. Because no one gave knowledge to God. He inherently, from eternity, possesses this attribute of knowledge. There can be no limitation placed to his attribute of knowledge. So he will be all knowledgeable. And because he exists even without a beginning of time, he is not bound by time or restricted by time. That means he knows the past, present and future without the restrictions. So God is then all knowledgeable. Excuse me. All knowledgeable. Do you agree so far? Do you agree so far?
Because even so, Allah created everything. That means that he also created evil.
Pardon?
No.
Not goodness. Why?
Yeah, he's just
does the
talking
evil
and
come
talking
from?
and talking.
Do you believe there's a God of evil in your
And what
religion?
he's saying does not
Right. So
doesn't give
everything
me anything.
is.
It just
But the
it
Muslims-
excuse me.
gives me nothing.
My friend,
When
my
he's
friend.
talking, it
Excuse
doesn't
me.
give me anything.
My
So-
friend, are you listening or are you going to
Answer the
interrupt
question.
with?
Sorry, excuse me, I'm just talking
Look,
to
look,
this guy.
it is not fair that while you're discussing with us here, you interrupt it with hecklers. Hecklers come, let them be, let them heckle, they will come and they will go. There will be hecklers from all kinds. What we're saying is, as I said, excuse me, as I was saying, the coherence of this chapter, God is one, only, unique and absolute, and I just demonstrated why God is absolute.
Giving him 2 minutes.
If God is absolute, don't listen to hecklers. If God is absolute, then
Seriously, I'm not interested in hearing your lectures. For me,
Do you see
it
the
does
problem?
not- No, listen to me.
Do you
For
see
me,
the problem?
It does not make sense. For me, it's
What didn't make sense?
For me, I want something
Excuse
to be
me.
coherent. I want something
Sure.
to be empirical tested,
Thank
and
you.
I want something to be
One
able
moment,
to
brother,
live
brother,
with
please,
it.
be
For me,
patient.
you have not answered the questions
Okay.
that this lady has been trying to ask.
what did she ask?
Where
Yes.
does evil
Sorry,
evil come
sorry,
from?
stop, please. What did she ask me for that question that I wasn't answering?
You were trying to. You were.
What did she ask, my friend? That I was not. No.
No, I'm
You
asking
said.
Do you remember what she asked?
not remember.
Do
You
remember-
said.
do you-
I
do
wasn't
you
answering.
remember? No.
Were you
Do
listening to the
remember?
question she asked?
Are you repeating my question?
Huh?
No.
What is this?
Now, so basically,
No,
so
that
excuse
wasn't
me.
the
No.
question.
You said-
Can I ask
I'm
again?
not interested
Excuse
in
me.
hearing your
Listen.
To listen to the
Listen.
ladies as well.
Listen, remember what I was doing? You said you want to know and believe in something that is coherent. Did you say that?
But that was my question.
Sorry. This gentleman, what's your name?
My name?
Yeah.
Is like Osman, like the third.
Osman?
The third caliph.
My name is Mansur Osman. Now, did you not want to believe in something which has to be coherent, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is precisely what I was doing with a small chapter in the Quran. Look,
I'm not saying that the
allow me-
idea of a singularity is,
listen,
is
not singularity.
coherent.
Not singularity.
That
Sorry,
the idea
brother,
of
please.
Allah is not coherent itself.
Excuse
but
me.
I'm saying that it lacks
my
the
friend,
possibility
my friend.
to be even greater.
Relax.
If
Relax.
it would have been, for
Osman.
example, triune, which I think
Osman.
is a much better
Osman.
way of thinking. I think
Osman.
that
I did not-
is a much better way.
Osman.
It's a much better way of.
My friend.
Yeah, I think it makes much more sense.
Hoffman,
Much more-
I did not
much-
pick a
much-
chapter in the
much-
Quran which is like
more-
20 pages long. I chose a chapter which was only 4.
I'm not interested, like
Subhanallah.
this gentleman said. For
Listen,
me, I want you. If you
how
want to
do
say
you
something-
establish
say
coherence?
something- Say something
Okay.
interesting.
You know what?
To be logical.
I will
You
leave
need
it.
premise.
I will leave it there. I
You
think
need
I've already
premises.
established.
Let him answer this
My friend.
Asking
Yeah.
your question.
Hoffman.
Yeah, she
Sorry,
has a
sorry.
question.
I want
She
to
has a
ask
question.
you. Can you answer my
You
question?
can. You can.
Wants a
But
question.
can you now?
Can you answer her question now?
Answer a question. And
Question now would be really.
Are you listening to him or are you discussing with me?
I want to listen to you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You want to
Please
answer my
respect her.
question.
Go ahead. What question am I not answering?
Allah He created everything.
Yes. He created everyone's actions.
That means the good and the evil.
Carry on. I'm not going to say anything. You
No,
carry
come
on.
on, no, answer that.
So answer what?
Come on.
He created
good
the
and evil.
And evil.
Yes
is
or
that
no?
what
Yes,
the
yeah,
Quran
give
is
us
telling
yes
you?
or no.
Define
Yes,
evil.
yes or no.
Evil
Yes
is
or no.
not good.
Come on.
An example.
He created things capable
murder.
of
Brother, excuse me, brother.
Murder,
Can you be
violence.
patient, right? Thank you. It's an important quality to have called patience. Right? Thank you. Go
Let this
ahead.
guy speak, man.
Because that,
They created things with the capability to do good or evil.
brother, the reason why they want other people to
Can
join the
you
discussion
Standards of what's good
is
and evil.
because
Yeah.
to convolute this matter.
One more
What's
time.
evil for
Okay,
me
carry on,
might
carry
be
on.
different for you.
No. Let him
Carry on, brother. Carry on. Carry on.
So basically, there's a creation. Allah created us all. Free will. If you can help me with this. Free
Why
will
should I,
is
brother?
like-
They are trying to divert the conversation from one speaker to multiple.
It's scared of his-
No. I am
just wanna
saying.
put forward a little thought,
I'm
which is
saying,
that
brother,
we're a creation
listen,
capable of things.
look,
So
the
hopefully
reason
it's
why
not-
we
can
Muslims
create those-
have a
Can you-
particular understanding that if one of us speak, all of us, we will listen. If I need reminding, remind me. If I need correction, correct me.
I'm not
right.
correcting.
Thank you.
I'm adding.
But other than that, let's have this conversation. The lady asked, evil is the opposite of good. Give me an example.
Yeah. Violence, that's
Violence.
not good.
Okay.
You mean that if I
No.
murder someone, that's good?
Slow down. Violence. Violence is not necessarily evil. Police does violence. When a person wants to commit a rape,
That's not a very good.
excuse me,
good
I'm
point.
trying to answer your question, and this gentleman Osman and the other guy here,
I
a
want to
heckler.
hear his answer.
Fine, right. But you see how they're interrupting me from answering your question? Would you be kind enough to tell them to listen to my answer?
Yeah, he's listening.
Thank you. Right. Violence is not necessarily evil. Let me give you examples.
Okay.
Police often applies violence to stop a grievous crime happening. For example, if a police sees someone with a gun and about to murder all of us here, they might shoot this guy's hand and legs to stop him from firing the gun but not killing him. That is violence. This violence is justifiable, justified violence. That wasn't evil. Yeah? It's a good act what they have done to stop the mass murder happening. So your understanding of evil needs rechecking.
Have God created people who's born with sicknesses and illnesses?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Have God created people to be born blind? People to be born with abilities? There's this insect which has this own ability to go into people's eyes and eat it from the inside. Have you heard this atheist famous Stephen Fry? There's this insect. Has God created this? He creates everything.
Shall I
He's
answer?
created an insect which has this
Samir?
main purpose of, like Stephen Fry says, for me that is evil. I cannot believe in a God like that, and I also cannot believe in a God who does not have the ability.
Are you discussing with Stephen Fry or me?
To forgive without giving any justification for it. You cannot just forgive someone without there to be any atonement. If there's no atonement, it does not make sense. We need
Right.
the atonement.
Thank you.
And that for me is logical, coherent, and it makes much more
You
sense.
asked me a question,
for
and
me,
now you're
that's
talking about
important if I want
coherence
to-
of atonement.
That's for me. That's important.
If you allow me to respond to that, I will show you how that doesn't work
as
out.
the truth. I'm talking as well, and you should also.
No, I
learn
didn't
how
say
to
you're not.
listen.
Look. I didn't say you're not allowed to talk.
You should learn how to listen as well.
Excuse me.
Okay?
I didn't say you're not allowed to talk. I said, you asked me, did God create an insect that goes into the eye and eats their eyes and so on and so forth, as Stephen Fry said, so on and so and so. Now, you expect.
Did he? Yes or no?
Are you finished?
I want some yes or no. Can you give me
Okay.
a
Now,
yes
I
or
want
no?
to know, first of all, are you finished with your question? Because if you haven't finished, I give you time again to finish your question, then I'm going to answer.
Can you answer a yes or no on that? Is that possible?
Can you tell me when you're finished?
Now I'm finished.
Thank
Can
you.
I-
No, you said you're finished and you're still
Okay.
talking.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Thank you. So no talking now. Okay, now.
That was not my question because I wanted a yes or no. That was my last question. A yes or no.
Have you finished with
That
your
was
question?
not my question.
Have you finished with your question?
It was a yes or no question.
Excuse me. Have you finished with
It
your
was a
question?
yes or no question.
Sorry. Just tell me if you're finished with your question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I expect you as a gentleman, Osman, to listen to the answer, right? So you asked me, Have you heard about that insect that goes into the eye? And
That wasn't the original question.
what was the original question? Remind me.
Did Allah created the evil?
And I asked you, what do you mean by evil?
Yeah, and
And
I
you
answered.
defined. And then
He answered.
and
Did he create that insect?
one moment. So then I answered,
no?
evil is
yes or no
relative. Did I not say that?
Okay, can I say? Okay, so
Please,
Okay, so-
see what you have to add.
like evil, like for example, according to Islam, like committing homosexual acts, that's an evil sin to be doing, and like all of what is it, committing adultery.
So you're
all of them-
differentiating between what makes evil. We say, look, there is a distinction between sin and other acts. But sin is an act of willful disobedience to God and His will. When you say, did God create evil? I ask you to define evil. And then you somehow realize evil is a relative term. Because police acting on violence is not evil, because you gave example of evil as violence. Then you brought up this example of
Insect.
an insect, something that, it just comes and eats your eyes. I say, look, God has created us with a purpose.
What's the purpose?
You see, it's very difficult to answer a question
No,
when
it's very
every
easy to say
moment,
yes or
when
no.
about to answer it, you keep on interrupting. So give me 2 minutes at least, right? God created us with a purpose. Now, the purpose is to worship God. Now, He created people with different levels of abilities. And He is utmost just. He is not even to the least unjust to the people He's created. So those who have been created with no eyes at all, let alone the insect comes and eats it, they don't even have an eye. Or,
So you're actually
excuse
saying,
me.
No.
I said 2
Okay,
minutes, and
yeah,
you can't
but
even stay silent for 2 minutes.
Okay, 30 minutes. 30 seconds.
Sorry.
Or,
I know how much is 2 minutes. Yes, that wasn't even 2 minutes.
okay, I can check the clock if you want to. 2 minutes?
Start 2 minutes again.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's
Right.
getting you 2 minutes. Okay.
Why not? Because you interrupted.
Okay, 2 minutes from
Right. So God created people with purpose. All of us have to fulfill our purpose. Some of us may have 2 hands, 2 legs, some of us may not. Doesn't matter what you have got. How God created you, with eyes or without eyes. God will judge us based on the ability that we have given and whether we were able to fulfill it. So if a person is very poor or very rich, it doesn't mean the rich person is going to be able to perform this purpose of his creation or her creation better than the poor person. It may be the opposite. Likewise, a person who is able and a person who is disabled, it doesn't mean the able person will fulfill the purpose more better than a disabled person. It may be the opposite. A disabled person, knowing the disability, still is able to perform the purpose of God that God has created them with, worshiping God alone. So God
Yeah.
being
1 more minute.
the Bible school or college or the seminars that you go to, ask them to train you on patience.
And you as well.
No, this is my right.
You
I said it
wouldn't
rightfully.
listen to him.
Excuse me.
You wouldn't listen
No,
to
be
him.
fair.
Okay,
Are you a fair
4
person?
minutes. I get 4
Rightfully. When we agreed on 2 minutes, he interjected before it finished.
Yeah,
So
and
that
I
means
asked him to stop.
No,
And
that
so
means
you continue.
that
The
means
clock is ticking.
my advice
The
is
clock
not
is
an
ticking.
arrogant advice. I'm giving
clock
you
is
a good
ticking.
advice.
The clock is
Good
ticking.
advice. Train yourself. Right. So as I said, God is being just, and He's always just. We can fulfill our purposes even having eyes or without having eyes. God will take all of that into account, whether based on this, the ability that we have, whether we are fulfilling the purpose or not. Returning back to your question about God creating evil or good. Now, God creates all our actions, but the intention of us to kill, to rape, to murder is something that we will be blamed and accountable for, not God, because we are intending it. Imagine you want to...
Now 2 minutes gone.
No, that
Okay,
wasn't
now-
my 2
yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
That was
that's 2 minutes. Now it's my turn because you've been talking for so long. And let me say, you've just admitted that God has created people blind. God has created... You know, my brother, he had cancer. He died in May. He suffered a lot. It was a really hard time for me, you know? And this guy just told me God created him like that, with brain tumor. He just said it in my face. And I cannot worship a God like that. I would never do that. I do not find that as a good and loving God. How can God create people with sicknesses and illnesses? And it's not just sicknesses and illnesses, it's suffering. If God creates people like that, then for me, at least, and I think most people do, think that that's an evil God, if he would do that. Yeah, my 2 minutes are not over.
You can get 2 minutes.
Yeah. So
Are you watching time?
You have been really saying it right through. And there's so many problems with this singularity. Justice. How can you get justice if you don't have atonement? Do you know what that means? Do you know what? Do you know we need atonement? How can you be free? How can you be justified?
Give him 5 minutes to explain that.
God, if he just forgives, if
give him 5
slaps,
minutes to explain it.
No. If someone,
it's a big subject.
If someone rapes my daughter, and the judge comes and he says, "Okay, I'll forgive this raper," then that judge is an evil judge. There has to be atonement. The Islamic view does not offer any atonement at all. What it offers is a God who says, I can forgive this, I can forgive that, I condemn